This is For Your Institution, presented by Mongoose. I'm Greg Bauch, joined by Mike Kochczynski, of course. Today's topic is the evolution of technology in recruitment and its impact on graduate programs. We have people filing in to join us for today. Just as a reminder, this broadcast will be recorded. So if you have to jump off for whatever reason, for a call or email or lunch, you'll get a full recording sent to your inbox within like 48 hours. Just remember that. Please stay unmuted. Please stay muted. We do participate questions, and we'd love it if you jumped on and had a question. Lexi Croysdale is producing our event today. She will be monitoring the chat and the questions, and we'll get to the Q&A at one point, but we are going to encourage you to come on and ask a question if you'd like. But until then, just stay muted and just let Lexi know in the chat if you want to address your question to the group. We would love for that to happen. But until then, keep the mute button on and fill up that Q&A with questions. It is a community, and we love to have input. So today we are talking about technology and recruitment. Mike, why are we doing so?
Well, we had some feedback that we should talk more about graduate programs and graduate recruiting, and we thought this was a really good topic. And Andy Morris, who has been part of this FYI community, he's joined us as a participant watching, just like many of you. He decided, hey, I would kind of like to be a guest, so we brought him on. And Andy is extremely interesting, and this should be a really interesting conversation.
Well, let's meet Andy. Andy, please come on and tell the folks a little bit about yourself, and thank you for joining us.
Sure. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Lexi. My name's Andy Morris. I'm the Senior Associate Director for Enrollment Management and Recruitment for the College of Community and Public Affairs at Binghamton University. If you're not familiar with Binghamton, we're one of the 4 university research centers in the State University of New York, or SUNY. We're the smallest and youngest, but we're considered the top public university in New York. I've been involved in higher education for almost 37 years, 28 in enrollment management, marketing, and communications. I've actually worked primarily in the SUNY system. I'm a graduate of SUNY. I went to my undergraduate degree was from the State University College at Geneseo, where I majored in anthropology and linguistics. And then I went on to graduate work at the University of Albany in counseling, psychology, and student personnel. I've worked at the University of Buffalo twice in my career. I've worked at Utica College, Genesee Community College, the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, also known as UNC by the Sea, and a small college on Long Island called the Webb Institute of Naval Architecture, one of the nation's top engineering schools that no one has ever heard of. So I'm really happy to be here. I love admissions and enrollment management. After 15 years as the Associate Director of Undergraduate Admissions, I got a call from the provost to come to his office, and I wondered what the charges were. But it turned out that he was offering me a position to work in graduate recruitment for the College of Community and Public Affairs, where I helped to strategize for 7 master's programs and 2 doctoral programs.
So a little bit of experience,
yes,
a little bit of
bit.
experience. Yeah,
Yes.
that's it. Yes. Mike, you want to get us started?
Yeah. Well, Andy, what was your personal evolution of technology? Like, what was the first technology you used? And then let's, kind of bring it up to today.
Well, just to date myself a little bit, I was born the year that Sputnik was launched. And you guys can look that up in your Funkin' Wagnall and see. But my first contact with technology in higher education was in graduate school, when I was engaged in a research project about why one community college had an increase in enrollment and another community college had a decline. And we had to put our data onto IBM punch cards. and then collate those punch cards and send them with one rubber band around them for a room-sized computer to process, where we would have to pick up our results the next day. I worked at the University of Buffalo when the director of orientation bought the first Apple II computer to come onto campus. And we would gather around and watch his secretary actually alphabetize lists of names on the screen, which was magical back then. We moved on to desktop PCs. We went from slide projector information sessions in an auditorium to PowerPoint and other programs. And I was exposed to Banner in a very early age of Banner, when the screens looked like the computer screens in the movie War Games, where it was not even what they call a graphical user interface. I watched the evolution of college websites.
Still do.
Many of us saw a company not far from where Greg and Mike were from called Liquid Matrix that seemed to revolutionize the web design for colleges and universities. I headed up a call center where we would use computer systems and telephones to reach out to students. And recruiting, we had laptops very late in the 2000 or early in the 2000s. We went from postcard inquiry cards to using iPads for students to enter their information, and using barcode scanners at college fairs. All of that was really mind-blowing when you think of where we started, where an inquiry card didn't even include phone numbers or email addresses. Today, we have really sophisticated communication streams that go out on an automated basis. And then we have Zoom. So it's been a tremendous arc of technology, from punch cards to me doing an information session and having students from Russia and Nigeria and Ghana and Las Vegas all logging in. It's like magic.
Very cool. With all these stages in your career, how hard was it for you to break new ground and discover the next thing?
Really, the problem was that everything was evolving so quickly that we were having to learn how to use this technology, when in some cases we had never had that technology in front of us before. There were way too many versions of Windows that were updating all the time. I saw the advent of word processing, where in my college career, all my term papers were manually typed on a typewriter. As I mentioned, presentation software has really dramatically improved. But we had to go and often harass our IT people to teach us how to use this technology. Every once in a while, an administrator would learn a software package that would revolutionize what we had to do. But really today, we're so blessed by having what we will now call intuitive products, where you can log in and pretty much work your way around and figure out how it works in general. And that's something that's really been exciting. I've seen companies come and go that it provided enrollment support and software. We're sort of consolidating the industry a great deal right now.
It's true.
So we definitely want to get into, I love history. So I love the history of it, and your perspective is so unique. Not everyone in our audience started with punch cards. And we are going to get into a little bit about utilizing technology today. But I'm curious what you think. Because not everyone started with, the kind of primitive, I guess, technology in recruitment. Do you think you have an advantage of going through every single step as opposed to someone just starting in the field?
Well, yes and no. I think that as I've matured, I've seen the systems that I use mature and serve us much better. But there are people entering the profession today who really were, part and parcel with the advent of so many of these advanced technologies. And so it's, I think in a lot of ways, they have somewhat of an advantage over folks like me, but I've definitely seen systems improve. I've been part of the improvement process. When our school bought Slate, I helped to create how Slate functioned for our undergraduate admissions office. So it's been an exciting time, and I'm sort of at the sunset of my career, but I'm very supportive of people coming in who can really make all this stuff sing.
Get your questions ready for Andy and put them in the chat. Obviously, a resource available to you here. So fill up the Q&A with questions for Andy as we go here, and Mike has one now.
Yeah. How did you identify what would be the next big thing on your campuses?
Well, what's really important is one of the things about working in higher education is that you never grow old. That because you're around young people all the time, your thinking remains very vibrant and young. And I pay attention to what younger students are engaged in, what high school students are engaged in, and I try to draw from that what we're going to be needing to use tomorrow. And I have a very brief but funny story about when I ran a call center at the University of Buffalo. I saw a student who was engaged in some kind of interactive chat on their screen. And it turned out that they were using AOL Instant Messenger. And the person told me, yeah, I've got 50 friends that I message with. And he goes, but that's nothing. My brother's a junior in high school. He has over 250 friends. And the light bulb went off, and I immediately set up an instant messenger account for the admissions office at Buffalo. And the night we turned it on, the screen exploded in messages. So I realized that this was a technology that young people were using, and we were ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. And I actually got written up in a couple national magazines for being one of the first people to utilize instant messaging in college admissions work. But had I not looked at that person's screen and wondered what they were doing, I might not have been clued into that jump in technology.
Right.
So there's a lesson in that. Pay attention to what's going on campus and not just focusing as much on what you're using now, and having that outward vision to, I guess, get a jump on, we'll say, the competition at this point in recruitment. Pay attention to what's going on around you, I guess, would be the lesson there.
Yep.
Yeah. Super interesting. Again, have your questions populated into the Q&A. If you'd like to come on and ask a question, we'd love for that to happen as well. Just let Lexi know in the chat that you'd like to do so, and we'll accommodate you when we get to that Q&A portion of our FYI session today. We talked a little bit about identifying the technology. So as you go, there's only so much that anyone in our audience and that you yourself, Andy, can control at your institution. But you can still recognize what might be lacking at your institution or other institutions. So can you talk a little bit about what you see the industry needs?
Well, in a couple of different ways. I think that our future is going to be again, using the technology that is prevalent. Texting is something that we've got to engage in. We know that students don't open emails that we send them, but in most cases, they'll open texts. I think video is becoming more and more important. I experimented with a product called Drift a couple years ago where you could create personalized videos. And I now know Slate has an ability to incorporate video in outgoing emails. Predictive modeling really took sort of a combination of Moneyball meets How I Got into College, and let you look at the students that you brought in the past and let you really know what students are most likely to come. And things like personalized URLs. A few years ago, we were all about printing customized view books for students. That seems ancient now, and now it's personalized URLs. This is going to sound really funny, but back in 1997, I did a talk called Computer Chips and Enrollment Dips. And it was all about getting into some of these cutting edge technologies. And I ended that presentation by saying, and someday a recruiter for a college will be able to send a hologram to a high school to present on their school. And today we have Zoom. And basically during COVID, recruiters were like the holograms that I predicted, and we're actually conducting high school and college visits, without being there. And that's pretty magical.
Do you think the interactive virtual events, as we maybe turn the corner on COVID, do you think they're here to stay? Do you think they're going to dwindle a little? What's your take on it?
I really feel that I think that Zooming and online sessions are here to stay. Mm-hmm. I think that they've become so ingrained that while we want and will try to get back to doing in person, we've found that we're able to serve populations that we were not able to serve in person. I'm facilitating information sessions and having students from all over the US and all around the world joining me for these information sessions who I would never, and my university would likely not have been able to do an in-person visit with. I think what the future is going to be is how we can create hybrid situations where we can serve that in-person presence with the continuation of virtual so that you can serve those populations. Because it's all about service. It's all about getting in front of people and getting your message in front of people. And, we would not be able to gather as a group like this today unless we were at a conference somewhere. And so it really is a phenomenal advancement, and one that I don't think will go away soon.
Interesting.
So technology certainly allows you to do more, to reach more people at once. Mike and I often on FYI, we always talk about personalization and how important it is. So you might have the ability to do more, but personalization and that connecting is super important. So can you talk a little bit about personalization and your recruitment efforts?
Sure. Personalization was initially very difficult to do. Today, it's a must-do. Students who are in high school today, who are in college today, who are in grad school today, they expect everything to be personalized to them. And I think in many ways, we need to up our personalization game. I think in some cases, even my own programs have become complacent with personalization. I've recently been reinvigorated by a professional conference to look at how we can really push personalization, personalizing subject lines, multiple use of personalizations within the body of emails, and personalized landing pages when you've had a contact with a student. And it's something that really we have to do now. And because that's what's expected. They want things fast, they want things now, and they want to be made like you're doing it for them.
Can I expound on that a
Please.
little bit? The personalized landing pages for a student, is this something you're utilizing, or is that, I don't know how possible this is or how much people would know about that.
Well, I wish we had personalized URLs or personalized landing pages, but there are some universities who are able to have those services, who, based on what a student has visited on your website or has checked off on a request for information, they're directed to a portal, or even when they come to your website, are now seeing things based on the interests they've expressed. Not every school has been able to adopt or adapt to that, but just like with technology, some schools are able to buy and implement that technology right away, and some follow along when it becomes more affordable or more accessible.
Andy, if I may ask, I think it's important for the folks in the audience who are not in enrollment management. Do you think that same idea could be applied to alumni and donors, or maybe even current students, parents, populations that aren't necessarily in recruitment?
What's that?
You're doing the personalized URLs or personalized links.
Well, I think we all know that. I set foot in a store and I didn't buy anything. And before I get home, I've got a message saying, "How did you like visiting my store?"
Wow.
I think that technology will eventually be carried over where, a parent who visits a website, or takes advantage of a service, an alumnus who visits a college will, get an email saying, "Oh, I hope you found what you were looking for on our website," without that person even engaging with anyone. It's scary, it's like some of the futuristic movies where, as the person walks through the store, the different mirrors talk to them and ask them about their size and about what clothes they want as they walk through. I think we're getting there.
First one I think of is Minority Report when you mentioned that. His eyes are being scanned. Yes. So if you're forward thinking, you're thinking about what technology you can utilize, you also have to think about how you're using it. Do you ever think about, like you mentioned the word scary when you talked about being tracked, your online presence and your search history can have offers and deals like put right into your pocket. Do you think about how zagging when everyone else is zigging on recruitment efforts and things like that, on how maybe don't try and reach the masses how everyone else is reaching the masses? Like, does your thinking ever lead you down that path?
I think you take advantage of the information that's available to you. Those of us who work at a school that has Slate know that we can look at a student's timeline and we can see every website at our school that they've touched. And if we see the student going to the financial aid office 5 times in a row, that student may be someone that we know needs some assistance with financial aid, scholarships, or other information. So we have the ability now to do it. And at the conference I was at recently for graduate recruiters, there was a company that said they could assist you in evaluating those website touches and translate that into outreach and contact and personalization. So, we sort of have it at our fingertips. And right now, some of us have to do it manually, but there are already vendors out there that are looking to build those bridges between the behind the scenes contacts our students have, and how to reach out to those people.
How valuable have those insights been, or maybe they're siloed from it, but how valuable is digital advertising to you then?
Like most schools, we and programs, my programs have had to go to the social digital media world. We began with very small, dipping our toe in, and very small funded campaigns to every year. And we've only really been engaging digital for the last 2 or 3 years, but we've increased our budgets and we've increased our outreach. And there are digital realms that I would like to see us move into if we can afford to. I know that at the graduate level, many prospective students are using LinkedIn to explore grad school options. And I think that, using LinkedIn is a source. YouTube is the #2 most widely used search engine in the world right now, behind Google. Young people are using YouTube to search for everything. So, it's really important that you dip your toe in YouTube type opportunities, whether it's over the top videos that play before, during, or after a video you want to watch, or whether you're adding banners to a YouTube video or a LinkedIn website.
Now, my apologies, Andy. Is it NAGAP or NAGAP? I always feel like I say it wrong.
I call it NAGAP, but it
Perfect.
depends on where you're from.
Gotcha. So for NAGAP,
Toledo.
Toledo, that's right. Yeah, glass capital of the world. So with NAGAP, one of the things that I've been reading is, you mentioned LinkedIn, that for graduate recruitment for graduate schools, that the #1 criterion's been successful job placement for students, and then #2 is accreditation, #3 is mentor and faculty relationships. For the audience, I'd love to hear, particularly if you're in the graduate recruiting space, if you find that that's accurate for you. If it's not, please chime in. If you want to come on camera too and discuss, feel free. But Andy, I'd love to hear about that for Binghamton. Do you find that's pretty accurate, those top 3?
Yeah, when the economy is really bad, everyone goes to grad school to hide for a couple of years, hoping that the landscape for employment will improve when they come out with that graduate degree. And when the economy is good, people go to work and they put the idea of grad school on the back burner. And I think that return on investment today is a burning issue at undergraduate and graduate level. Is the money I'm investing in my higher education or my graduate education going to pay me back? People with master's degrees earn more than people with bachelors. They enjoy a lower unemployment rate. And the sooner they get their master's degree, the sooner they can earn that wage premium that lasts for a lifetime. And, it is an investment you make in yourself, taking on the additional debt of graduate school. But there are also some ways that you can creatively fund graduate studies and come out not owing as much as you might think you would going in.
What, if folks on this, in this particular episode, if they were interested in going back to graduate school, you mentioned sort of the creative ways to help fund grad programs, what should they look at?
Right off the bat, I'm a big fan of searching for scholarships. I don't think students do that in high school. Current students who are undergraduates don't search for scholarships that are available to them. And for graduate school, they don't. I oversee the award of foundation scholarships for students in my programs. And every year for the past 3 years, there have been some scholarships where no one has applied for them.
Wow.
Or one person has applied for them. And I'm aghast where these people are worried about their costs and the scholarship applications are free and right in front of them, and they're not taking advantage of it. Seeking out graduate assistantships of different kinds. Even just letting their advisors and their recruiters know that they are looking for funding support. They can often find out about opportunities for assistantships that that recruiter or advisor is looking to fill. We even have a program for teacher certification called SWAP, where it's called Substitute with a Purpose, where students can actually be paid to substitute teach while they're in their master's program for education. So there's a number of different creative ways to, lower the cost of your graduate degree and get that degree that's so important in job security, job advancement. There are certain fields like higher education where you can only go so far with just a bachelor's degree today. And so, it's important to consider that if it's the right move for you.
Interesting. It's more than just technology. I know that's what the episode is called, but it's just ways of getting creative in order to accomplish the same goal. As Kim and Kyle chime in on the scholarships, and I hate to be repetitive, but I mentioned this before. I have an interesting perspective that my wife had to restart her life and go back to school, and her school did a really good job of making her aware of scholarship opportunities, and she has utilized those, and it has helped out a lot. And so we often like to give advice, just make sure that your programs are doing so. That helps with retention and such, presenting those opportunities. So please, we'll remind you again, feel free to ask questions for Andy. Use the Q&A chat button on the bottom of the screen. Mike and I have loaded with tons, so we can certainly cover the time with that. We've got lots of questions, but want to make sure that you yourself and your institution is represented in that. So I want to talk about, we've talked about the benefits of technology. Let's talk a little bit about the pain points, because it isn't often as simple as just plugging something in and letting it go and doing all the work for you. What are some of the pain points you've come across with technology in your profession?
I think the most difficult part of technology is learning it, finding how best to get your arms around it, encouraging people to use the technology that your institution is offering them. There are times where, I've had people working under me who had access to resources and weren't taking advantage of them. It's also milking the technology that's provided to you and using every bit of it. I am always eager to learn more and more about what Slate can offer my school, because there seems to be new secrets to Slate that are revealed all the time. And, I'm always asking, can we get an update on any new features that we might be able to utilize? And again, I didn't realize that there was a video feature to record and send videos to students' emails in Slate until I was at the conference a couple weeks ago. So, it's the pain points are really, being able to have your institution recognize the need for new technology and to get it for you. And sometimes that takes time. And very often we're powerless, those of us in the trenches, to select the technology we'd like to have,
Yes.
and other people make that decision for us.
Yeah. Kim in the chat here brought up a very interesting point. Kim, I don't know if you mind being on camera or going off of mute, but you wrote that a pain point is limited resources to learn the new tool. We don't all learn them the same. Can you talk about what is your ideal process for learning a particular system?
I would like for somebody to show me and then give me an example to actually do it once myself. That's how I learn better. I can't really pick something up super well just by reading a set of directions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things we are utilizing a unique platform for some of our graduate fairs that we have called Remo, and it creates a little virtual college fair floor with little, tables and chairs, and so many students can come and sit around these tables with a representative. And I resorted to YouTube, where I found a number of videos put out by the company and by other users that showed you how to utilize this program. So my fear of using it for the first time totally dissipated, because I felt like I was able to see how the program was going to work before we used it.
You can be limited and you can be frustrated that you can't pick the tools, but when you have the tool, the onus is a bit on you to learn how to use it. And I'm terrible at that. If I have a hard time learning something, and I'll think of like some of the programs we use, I use like editing software like Premiere Pro. Lexi will laugh because she has to show me how to use it all the time, and HubSpot and that. I don't dive in, and time could be an issue here, but I don't dive in a lot and watch tutorials to use it. And that is one way you can improve your own situation, is by like taking a time to learn how to master a tool, not just get by with your day-to-day.
One other quick example, during COVID, Handshake became a platform of choice for many college fairs and graduate fairs. And as COVID progressed, we found ourselves limited, no in-person grad fairs, very limited opportunities to do outreach beyond your basement, like where my workstation was. And I made a connection that colleges all across the country use Handshake in their career centers. And I began to use Handshake to promote my information sessions at colleges and universities all over the country that we never would have promoted an information session at. And it has really taken off, where now when I do an information session, or one of the recruiters for one of my presentations does, I look at the registration list, and I can see the college email addresses that definitely came through because of my figuring out how to use Handshake for college graduate school information sessions.
Very good.
Super interesting.
Yeah, that is. Looping back on the scholarship point, Christine brings up a very interesting point or question in the chat. Do you think there might be some disconnect or breakdown in communication / information between an institution and their students or employees that might be indicated by these lonely scholarship or underutilized services? I think there's something to that.
I completely agree. I keep getting, I'm not picking on my university, but I get reassurances from the people who run the scholarship program that every student is sent an email telling them to use this one website we have to find scholarships. All they do is log in. It's called Academic Works. They log in, and all the scholarships that they may be qualified for appear in front of them. And all they have to do is click on them and apply. But when I talk to students every day, I'll say, hey, do you know about Academic Works? Do you know about scholarships that they're open right now? And the student looks at me, seniors or graduate students who have been at Binghamton as undergraduates and are now in their 5th or 6th year here. And they go, no, I didn't know about that. So yeah, there's breakdown. So, you need to, like what we always say, you need to have the right message sent through multiple channels so that you have run the risk of a student catching it through one of those communication opportunities.
And it's not only making students aware of it, do an audit, like have someone go through that process, because even if they find it, you mentioned that through that, through that system, it's all easy and you can see it, but really how easy is it? If you're not the one setting it up and a student asks you a question about it, how easy is it to actually, do that yourself? We have a hand up.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, Kim, go for it.
Kim.
Oh, we may lost you there, Kim.
Okay, Kim, if
you're
you're
back,
ready
I
and you
think.
want to ask your question, please go ahead.
Yeah, so we also use Academic Works, and I last year had noticed that our nursing students were like higher percentage for applicants. And I talked to our lead advisor and I said, what is your theory on why this happens? And they said, because on our admissions checklist, we make that as one of the things they have to do is put an application in. And most of the other advisors are just like, hey, if you want to learn about scholarships, let me know. They don't actually put down, you need to go here, 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 and put in an application. So we're working on that on our end.
Smart.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about messaging. I went to a great workshop from an outfit called Enrollify, who has a great blog, great blogs and great presentations. And he talked about how he had sent 100 requests for information to graduate programs and evaluated the communications they sent to him for the fall semester. And, they were good, bad, and ugly. One school just had an email that came back that said, I will be responding to emails and phone calls from home. And that was all it said. Other people sent messages that just took them to the same request for information form that the person had submitted. So, that's something that's also really helpful, is find out what other people are doing with technology. Go out and become an inquiry at other schools and monitor what they send you, and you can see what they're doing. It can be revolutionary.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
We have questions coming in. Lexi, do you want to read the next question that came through on the Q&A for us, please? Lexi Croysdale, everyone.
Thanks, Greg. Our next question is from Luke. He asks, what is the program or tool that is commonly used to create personalized landing pages?
Not the one we have. It's typically, I believe, a third-party service that universities or colleges contract with, that can create those for every student. Just like I said years ago, based on what a student would say on their inquiry card, they'd get a custom printed view book. So there may be some folks in the audience today whose university or college is using such a program that creates what are called PURLs, P-U-R-L-S, for personalized URLs.
I love homonyms. Awesome. Thank you. Lexi, I believe there is another question.
Yes, this question's from Mary Beth. They ask, have you integrated texting into graduate recruitment and admissions? If so, how are you using it and at what stages in the enrollment funnel?
Well, I believe we're not using it enough for my programs. Some of the programs are more receptive to it. We're using Slate to send the texts out and receive them. It's not the best platform because there's a delay in response, but it can be used at every phase as long as you're providing good information to students that they can use and act upon. I recently heard about a university that was using texting. Actually, this was in one of the blogs that the fellow from Enrollify wrote.
That would be Zach. Yeah.
Zach, he's great. He had a blog about re-engaging prospects who have ghosted you. And one of the texts that they sent was, "Are you ghosting me?" with a little ghost emoji.
Huh.
And that they had a great response from that. Just like, believe it or not, incorporating emojis in your subject line increases the likelihood somebody's going to open them.
I have to tell you, I think that's our blog, because that's definitely a best practice
Oh,
that
was it?
we have out there. I mean, Zach's a friend of the program. We
Yes.
love Zach. He puts out more content than the New York Times. So it's possible he also had the same thing. But yeah, that's a great tip. It doesn't matter who gave it. As a matter of fact, yes.
Great minds think alike.
That's
It's
right.
true.
Yes, I wouldn't group my mind in with Zach's at all. His mind's gone. Mike is Zach.
Zach moves a little faster. I
Yeah.
think,
Okay.
than
Yeah,
I do
that's
probably.
okay.
Well, good. Well, I'd be curious. You mentioned you transitioned from undergraduate recruiting to graduate recruiting. How would you compare and contrast the two? Maybe particularly for people who might be interested in saying, "Hey, I've been recruiting high school students into my traditional 4-year, and I'm thinking of making a switch over to grad."
I had spent most of my career working in undergraduate admissions at community colleges and at 2 universities. And after 15 years of being the associate director of undergraduate here, I was really beginning to feel a lack of daily challenge. I'm someone who thrives on new and different and great opportunities. That's why I love being the out-of-state recruiter, presenting Binghamton to high schools that had never heard of us. But after 15 years, I was really looking for something different. The opportunity came up to move to graduate, and I had to relearn a lot of things, because for undergraduate admissions, you only have to look 2 places to find students: high schools and community colleges. But at the graduate level, you have to grab a student before they graduate from 4 years school. You have to grab the student locally who's near your university. You have to try to convince the student who attended other colleges and went home to pick up and move back to a college campus. It's a great deal of additional challenge with multiple populations, greater age ranges, different motivations, and resources. In undergraduate admissions, we had an inside joke that transfer admissions was the stepchild. But in reality, graduate recruitment tends to be the evil stepchild that you keep in the basement. Resources don't flow to graduate recruitment with as much vigor as they do to undergraduate. Also, graduate admissions has not learned to embrace all the strategies and successes that have proven themselves at the undergraduate level. And part of that is the focus that very often graduate recruitment is run by people who are coming out of academics rather than people who have risen through the ranks of admissions or enrollment management.
Very good.
I love Andy's perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's very neat.
Yeah.
The history behind it. We got to talk to Andy for like an hour before our broadcast today, and Mike and Andy are going to start a podcast, not just on higher ed, but just on history in general.
Speedies and carousels.
Oh my goodness. These two, and it's great to listen to. Lisa shared a resource for Pearls in the chat. If you'd like to check that out, thank you for doing so, Lisa. There's still time for Q&A if you want to get in there. We do want to make sure, though, anyone joining us today had some takeaways on our conversation on the topic. And so, Andy, I guess I would just ask you that straight out. Like, what should people take away from our conversation today?
That's a great question. I think that the most important thing that they can do is be that what I call a futurist. That idea of looking ahead, looking around you, and and, really being aware of what's available. Learn what you have as well as you can. Uh, you know, I know Greg and Mike will appreciate this, but if you are blessed with the opportunity to go to conferences, spend your time in the vendor area doing more than just drinking their free coffee and donuts. But walk up to vendors, even if you're not in a position to make a decision to buy their product, and ask them to tell you about their service. I can't tell you how valuable my interactions with vendors at conferences are, learning about technologies that we haven't bought yet, or that we can't afford, or that are coming down the pike, by just chatting with these people who are supporting your conference. I see it two ways. They're helping you to be able to enjoy your conference, but at the same time, you should take advantage of them and ask them questions. Sadly, the first NAGAP conference I went to, I learned about contracts with companies that I didn't know the university had. So I didn't even realize these companies were helping us. But that's something that I think can really make a difference. And try to reach out to the workers around you, the staff, both above and below, and help lift all boats on a rising tide. Make sure everybody is trained and has access to training and access to knowledge about what's around them. I don't know if I torment the people who are recruiters for my programs, but I'm always forwarding information about different opportunities for them to learn and grow from. And we're blessed in enrollment management by having a lot of great newsletters and webinars and services. And those of us in the graduate realm should not divorce ourselves from webinars that deal primarily with undergraduate students or undergraduate enrollment, because the undergraduate of today is the graduate student of tomorrow. And we can learn a lot of how colleges are reaching out to undergraduates that we can put into practice at the graduate level.
Take advantage of every touch point.
Mhm.
That's a good lesson. So,
Absolutely.
awesome. Mike, anything on the hopper question wise? As I expected to be more populated
Yeah.
at this point, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Andy, people sometimes don't want to ask live questions, but they might have questions for you after this broadcast. How can they get a hold of you?
I think Lexi's going to insert my contact information into the chat. And
There we go.
again, I'm always eager and happy to chat with folks. And I don't have all the answers, but if I don't, I'll make something up.
Or find the answer.
Or
I
find
think
it,
I'd
yeah.
say you're more of a find the answer than a make an answer up.
Right.
I think that's awesome. So same goes for Mike and I, obviously. Greg and Mike at mongooseresearch.com anytime you want to get a hold of us, especially some people that had questions about texting. We know a thing or two about that and how to do it well, and would love to help you out on that. So Andy, we cannot thank you enough for being on here today. I know Mike is a huge fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you
I'll
so
just
much.
say, I am at the sunset of my career. I've got maybe another 2 years left before I retire, but I will tell you that enrollment management has been the excitement of my life. Every day is different. No 2 days are the same. And it's great to have something to strive towards at the end of each year. You always hope to have more points on the board than were expected. But encourage people to work in higher ed, nurture the people that work for you. There's a great problem in higher education where people in middle and upper management, they're having trouble finding qualified people to replace them. It's our job in our current roles to grow those people. And I encourage you all to grow the people around you so that they can aspire to fill your position, sometime in the future.
I love a challenge.
Yeah.
Andy's challenging the masses. That's what we do here on FYI. Awesome. So thank you again, Andy. I can't thank you enough. If you're on today's broadcast, thank you for joining us. You'll get a recording of the broadcast within 48 hours. We'll send you an email link. And please join us in 2 weeks on May 24th, where the topic will be summer melt. Mike.
Yes, reducing summer melt. We are working on the guests. So I don't want to out that individual now,
It's okay.
but we're working on a guest. If we don't get them, obviously we'll be prepared. But yeah, May 24th, reducing melts. Let's, keep our numbers, folks.
That's right. I am melting in here and it's at 400 degrees, but that's okay. I don't mind a little struggle. So thanks again to Andy. Thanks, Lexi, for producing our broadcast. Mike, you're great.
Thank you.
As always.
Thank you for participating, everyone, too, with the questions and going on camera. We all really appreciate that.
Awesome. So everyone enjoy the rest of your day and don't ever change. Thanks.
Thank you.